It's one of the most important safety features ever invented. It just sits there, right? Silently in your steering wheel, your dashboard, just waiting. But what is it really? Well, let's get into it, because the answer is a whole lot more violent than you probably think. To save your life in a car crash, your car has to punch you hard. It's this incredible paradox, isn't it? Safety through a sudden, brutal impact. And I'm telling you, this is no soft pillow. It's a life-saving punch. And it's delivered by a very, very carefully engineered explosive device.
That's right, an explosion. A controlled explosion happening inches from your face. And the science behind it? It's literally rocket science.
See, the key here isn't compressed air. That's way too slow. The key is something called solid propellant. This stuff doesn't just burn, it basically detonates. It creates this massive, incredible rush of gas in just a fraction of a second. Yeah, the same kind of explosive power that sends rockets into space is just waiting inside your car. And it has to be unbelievably fast. The entire event, from the moment your car hits something to the bag being fully inflated, takes just 30 milliseconds. To give you some perspective, it takes you about 300 milliseconds just to blink your eye. This is 10 times faster. The physics required to make that happen are absolutely mind-bending. But, this whole idea of a super-fast protective cushion, it didn't start with rocket fuel. It actually started with a moment of pure panic on a road in Pennsylvania way back in the 1950s. And this timeline, it just shows what a long, hard road it was to get this thing right. It all starts with a near miss in 1952. The inventor, John Hetrick, he had the right idea, but the tech just wasn't there. It took another 15 years just for someone to invent a reliable crash sensor. And it wasn't until 1998, 46 years after the idea, that airbags became standard, a 46-year journey. And at its heart, the whole thing was born from this one simple, very human question. After his accident, Hetrick just wondered, how can I stop people from hitting the dashboard? He had the right idea, he just had the wrong tools for the job. So compressed air was out. It was just too slow. To get the speed they needed, engineers had to turn from mechanics to chemistry. The solution? Basically a tiny solid fuel rocket engine, tucked away inside your steering wheel.
So how does it all happen so fast? Well, it's this incredible four-step chain reaction. A sensor detects the crash. It sends an electric signal to an igniter. That igniter sparks the solid propellant, which then explodes, releasing a huge cloud of nitrogen gas that fills the bag. It is a perfect, instantaneous process. Well, most of the time.
Because as it turns out, the solution wasn't perfect. Early airbags, they saved lives for sure, but they also came with their own set of dangers. The public was, understandably a little wary of having a device that relied on an explosion to work. This photo really takes you back, doesn't it? Back to that era of experimentation in the 70s. Carmakers like Ford started offering airbags, but the technology was still pretty crude, and the debates over their safety were pretty fierce. The big problem was that the first designs were a one-size-fits-all solution, and that one size was based on an average adult man. For kids or for smaller adults, the force of that airbag could cause devastating injuries, sometimes even death. The cure could be just as dangerous as the disease. And those engineering challenges, well, they haven't gone away. In fact, one of them led to the single largest, most complex, and frankly, most terrifying safety recall in automotive history. You've almost certainly heard the name Takata. Their airbags were put into tens of millions of cars, from pretty much every major brand you can think of. But the problem was in the solid propellant itself. Over time, it could become dangerously unstable. The numbers here are just staggering. In the United States alone, 67 million airbags had to be recalled. That means millions of us were driving around with a literal ticking time bomb sitting in the steering wheel. And the cost has been devastatingly human. Here in the US, 28 people have been killed by the very device that was supposed to save them. The faulty inflators didn't just inflate the bag, they exploded, spraying metal shrapnel through the car's cabin like a grenade. So what exactly went wrong? It all comes back to the chemistry. The specific propellant that Takata used was unstable, especially in hot and humid climates. Over years of exposure, it would break down and become way too volatile. So when the airbag was triggered, the propellant would burn too fast, too violently, and it would rupture that metal canister, turning it into a fragmentation bomb.
And that brings us right back to where we started, to that central paradox. The airbag is a controlled explosion that's designed to save you from an uncontrolled one. And there's no question it has saved countless lives. But as the Takata crisis showed us all, controlling that explosion is a constant, high-stakes engineering challenge. So while it's the best we've got right now, you have to wonder, is this violent punch to the face the final word in automotive safety?